Hello and welcome to Coffee with Dr. Carla. I'm Dr. Carla and this is Michaela, and we're both so glad that you're here with us. And today our goal is to talk about mental health related issues and hopefully start to end the stigma around them. So we're going to talk about um, 988. And I feel like that's been a long time coming. So for a long time, we had the suicide hotline, and it was this long, you know, number that of course, nobody could remember, right? And I know that at one point, when we first started uh, the cognitive clinic, we ended up coming up with crisis cards because nobody could remember
Yeah.
the numbers for the domestic violence or for the suicide hotline or the talk line or the talk to text line. Um, and so we had some key numbers on there. Like we weren't manning them, right? Like we weren't necessarily assessing whether they were the best or the worst or whatever. But just from our experience, people couldn't remember the numbers when they were in a crisis. So we made up these crisis cards, and we really made, and we still continue to make a big deal out of making sure everybody gets them and has one for themselves and they can pass them on, etc. Um, but when things started to shift and they decided to make the suicide hotline something that someone could actually remember, 988, so much easier to remember. Um, yeah, we were, joking beforehand, like, be the game changer. Well, I mean, shortening to that, I would imagine would be a game changer for so many people to be able to remember it, to be able to have access, to be able to get help. And you are in a unique position where you are an integral part of that 988 system. So I don't know. I mean, share whatever you want. Like maybe what do we need to know? Like what is it? What isn't it? What do you hope people understand about the 988 system?
So with 988, it's more of a support. It's not necessarily long term. It's a support in the moment to help you get past these suicidal thoughts that you're experiencing in the moment. Because we always end with identifying a safety plan to help you stay safe for now.
Right.
Because the thoughts may come up later again. They may come up tomorrow. They may come up in a month. They may come up 10, 20 years from now.
Right.
But at this very moment, we're trying to help and support you as the best as we can right now. And I think that is something that a lot of people need to know. It's not a quick fix. It's something for the moment, and we can't necessarily give you all the tools you need in order to get past it in the long run. But short term wise, it's definitely very helpful. And we've seen how it changes people.
Okay. Um, can you share kind of like a story, obviously not sharing identifying information, where you feel like it was a real victory for the 988 system?
Oh yeah. So
I'm sure there's many, but like I know
yeah.
some stand out more than
hmm
others.
So we have we actually have like a group thing where we kind of all talk about our victories essentially with the chat. So they come in, they say that they're feeling suicidal or having these suicidal ideations. We go through the whole protocol. Um, and there's been numerous amounts of time where at the end of the chat, the client is expressing how thankful they are for us and what we do, and that how creating these safety plans and letting them realize that they have more to live for than to die for is very helpful for them. And a lot of the times, 90% of the times when we speak with these individuals, the suicidal ideation is not, there's no plan
Ah, okay.
because they reached out to us. Typically,
Right.
when there's a plan, the reaching out doesn't happen.
Right, because they're just putting their plan into action.
Exactly. They're
Right.
just putting their plan into action and there's nothing, they literally feel like they have nothing to live for at that point. But we always try to emphasize and empower the client that they reached out before they even implemented a plan, means, time, any of that. And even if they do have any of that, they still took the time to reach out. So they had to dial the 988 number, they had to text or chat or go to the internet and find it. So we try to empower them that they made that decision, and about 90% of the times, that is very helpful in identifying a turning point within the conversation to allow them to identify ways to live, whether that be their children. They have to take their dogs to the vet tomorrow. They
Sure.
have to go to work tomorrow. Even little things like paying attention to those little things in the conversation is very detrimental, because it means that they want to continue till tomorrow. Like one client was like, she wanted to die. Everything was going terrible, but she had to take her mom grocery shopping tomorrow. So that means you want to
And
be
if
here until
right,
tomorrow.
and if I don't, who will?
Exactly.
Right. So we know we got until she takes mom grocery shopping.
Yes, exactly. And then it kind of goes from there. And that goes along with the thought of 988 being a support for the now and getting them to kind of fight through this moment.
Okay. Excellent. Um, what else do you feel like it's important for people to know or to recognize about the, about the system? I'm sure these same things were true, when we had, um, you know, the long number, but
Mm-hmm.
I think because it's finally something that is memorable, right, like
Mm-hmm.
easy to recall. Um, it's more in the spotlight. And so I guess I'm curious, like, what else do you want them to know? So this is for the moment. This is to create
Mm-hmm.
a right now safety plan,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I want people to know that there is a difference between therapy. There is a
Yeah,
difference between the therapeutic aspect and the connection and the overall experience than 988, because as I stated before, 988 is for the moment and helps to keep you safe. And typically there's a lot of trauma that comes along with why you're feeling unsafe in the moment that needs to get processed. And sometimes when people come into the chat and they trying to process all of this, they feel like they don't get what they necessarily want out of it because they need something long term.
right.
Um,
Why am I so despondent? Why is it that my
exactly,
mom always does this and that
exactly.
you can't, you know,
Not possible. We
right?
have strict this time limit to about 2 hours max for our chats ish. Give or take. It obviously if it goes longer, shorter, it's fine. But and still in that amount of time there's no way to process a lifetime of trauma that you've experienced.
But you are spending about 2 hours, so that's interesting.
Yes.
So even I didn't realize that
Yes.
such a huge chunk of time could be
Mhm.
spent. So right, that's encouraging.
For sure. Yes. It's typically chats are about an hour and a half to 2 hours. After the 2 hour mark, we're like paying more attention to it to see how we can kind of get the chat to find a turning point so that way we're able to help others, because obviously there's only so many of us at the place, and there's a variety of different centers, but that doesn't really, all gets it goes to where it goes essentially.
Right. So it's still, I mean, regardless, the system is overloaded.
Exactly. The
Sure.
system is overloaded. So we have to have these time limits in place so that we're able to accommodate essentially as many people as we can.
So what happens? Somebody gets on, they're chatting, and you realize that despite talking about a plan, they're still
hmm
at risk. You know, what what
Um,
what what typically is the protocol?
so with that, if they're typically at risk, it depends. Well, if they have a means, if they have a time, if they have a plan in place. If those all of those are in place, we try to send dispatch or whoever in the area, child abuse, to kind of go and check on them as best we can.
So like maybe a wellness check for
Yep.
the police or the
hmm
fire department or who? Okay,
Exactly, because we're
sheriffs.
all mandated reporters.
Sure.
So essentially, we have to call things like that in. But then there are also the people where they're not necessarily having the plans or means, but they just see no light at the end of the tunnel. So those are the more difficult chats, obviously. Um, so we have to just accommodate them as best as the situation allows. There are no alike situations at all. I've never seen one exact situation for this. So it truly just depends. Every experience is individualized, and that's another thing. I want people to realize that nothing is going to be the same. We're not robots. We get that a lot.
Right.
They think that we're robots because
Wow,
we
a
have
human
to.
answered the phone. Yeah, that's I'm a
Yes,
human, right? Yeah.
because we have to follow a certain protocol to get those risk assessment questions in within a specific time. So we always get the "Are we robots?" questions, which we are not robots. We are live people here to support.
Yeah, that's good. Yeah. Um, you know, I know that um, crises don't happen 9 to 5, and
Mm-hmm.
so that's the other beautiful thing about 988. The same thing was true with the previous number, that it's a 24/7, three
Mm-hmm.
sixty five system that's always there
Yep.
for people. So, hopefully, if you're feeling like you may want to end your life or you're not sure if it's worth going on, um, I encourage you to reach out to 988. And like we said, it is a temporary fix. And then I would say start reaching out to your local mental health um, practices or agencies. Call your insurance, find out who in your area takes your insurance for um, mental health services, because there's no reason why you have to suffer through this alone. Absolutely not. So, so remember, you can change your thoughts, discover your potential, and transform your life by focusing on your overall well-being. So until next time, continue being the best you possible. Bye now.